A very good evening, Assalamu alaikum, and a warm welcome to Visionary Pulse, a segment that focuses on chatting to game changers and change makers. I'm Farzana Mayet, your host for this evening segment, and tonight we're chatting to one such game changer and change maker. We say a very good evening and a warm welcome to Sarah Louw. Sarah Louw is a dynamic South African entrepreneur, healthcare strategist, and a Mrs. South Africa 2025 finalist. As CEO of LNS Group, she leads groundbreaking partnerships between private healthcare providers and government systems as well, specializing in patient advocacy, compliance, and access to medical funding as well. She is also the founder of Talgadi Care, a public benefit organization dedicated to championing vulnerable patients' rights to quality care. Wow, this is absolutely amazing. So, driven by a lion-hearted spirit, Sarah blends strength, elegance, and strategic leadership. Her personal brand fuses luxury and relatability. A lioness mindset, combining fierce advocacy, nurturing leadership, and unapologetic ambition. Beyond business, Sarah is a proud mother of 3, raising blended family rooted in faith, courage, and inclusivity. So whether she's building a business, speaking on empowerment, or creating really great campaigns that fuse glamour and grit, Sarah Louw stands as a modern symbol of purposeful leadership, fearless, compassionate, and she is one unforgettable force. So we say a very good evening once again and a warm welcome. Wow, Sarah, that is an impressive profile. Good evening and thank you so much for joining me on Visionary Pulse.
Thank you so much, Farzana, for having me. I really feel honored to be sitting here.
Okay, so let's start from the top. Entrepreneur. What is LNS Group? I think our viewers would really love to know what is that.
So LNS Group, I can only imagine it sounds like a holding company if you just think of LNS.
Definitely.
LNS stands for Lunga Notasela, which is taken from many African languages. The meaning means what you sow, you shall reap.
Wow.
So everything
How
that
profound.
we put into our business, our purpose and our vision is what we are hoping to achieve at the end of it all.
Okay. And healthcare strategist.
Yes. So healthcare is absolute maze to navigate.
Okay.
Whether you are on a medical aid or you are a private patient or you are making use of the public health system,
Yes.
it's very difficult to know exactly what's your rights and what you are able to get.
And I would think, Sarah, that a lot of the public out there, our viewers will attest to this as well, that, you know, a lot of people out there are very misinformed or, less informed when it comes to things like this. And it's really something so amazing. I myself, and I'm not shy to admit it, off air when we were speaking, I was in awe of all these things that we are so unknown of. So can you elaborate a little bit more about that, please?
Perfect. So when you get involved, I'm going to make use of an accident because an accident is the easiest
perfect
one
example.
to put to put a little bit of a face to it, right? So you get involved in an accident and you are a ward of state, meaning you don't have a medical aid, you have to go to private healthcare, public healthcare. And when you get to public healthcare, it being a place where most of our population is going, there's delays in theatre. It's an urgent surgery that you need, but yet there's also multiple other urgent surgeries.
A lot of unforeseen, yes.
Exactly. It's an accident. So it's not something we plan for, right?
Absolutely not.
And what happens then is that emergency care is delayed. And with delay, there's often loss of life, loss of limb. So we step in where we then facilitate a move for that patient. But it is all above board, legally. It meets all the requirements of that move for that patient. So we engage with state doctors.
All right.
We connect them to private doctors.
Okay, so you, so to speak, the middleman. You're there to make things better.
Yes.
As an accident victim already, you are one is anxious, one is really, wanting to going through immense trauma. So you step in there. That is really incredible. Go on, I love listening to what is it that you're doing.
So basically, I'll use the same example now again of you rock up at state.
Right.
So the doctor, and I must take our hats off to our state doctors. Our doctors are immensely overworked and under-resourced, and they also are advocating for patient care. So the fact that we both have got a common goal, that's where we've met each other.
Okay.
So we moved that patient from being in a state facility to a private facility. Now, you can only imagine the cost of what a private facility would cost.
The expense factor, not to mention the bridging of the gap between the state and the private. It's immense, right?
It's huge.
Okay.
It's huge.
Okay.
So, nobody has 200,000 Rand lying around to fix a broken leg.
Yes.
That maybe a few people, but most of those people that can pay that have already got medical aid, and this is not something that they're worrying about. But here we're speaking about a sole breadwinner in a rural area that is now in a public transport had bilateral femur fracture.
Okay.
That person is going to need rehab. They're going to need adequate surgery. They're going to have those surgeries happen within, quite a fast time to ensure that there's a maximum outcome. And this is where we would move such a patient to a private facility. We also then manage that patient through our public benefits organization. And this is to ensure that that patient understands their rights, understands that if they need medication, we can help them with medication. We have doctors that we work with. We've got a fantastic group of people and hospital groups as well that work with us.
Wow. So do these hospital groups come on board?
Yes.
Or you find them?
So you find them and you go knock down every door you can.
And you want persistent women, I must say so. How can anyone say no to you?
No, and the thing is you have to create win-win-win scenarios.
Right.
So state wins, patient wins, private healthcare wins.
Okay.
So it's leveraging everybody's want out of it, and making sure that at the end of the day, what our objective is to ensure that that patient receives their care. We obviously do have salaries and things to pay as well, and that's where we make use of our administrative function of creating billing and ensuring that documentation is all collated correctly. So that's where we would then be charging and make our money, because people always ask, well, how do you survive then? Because you can't just do everything for free.
I was just going to ask, so where does that come in for you? I'm glad you're elaborating.
Yeah, so that's where we end up making our money, and it's very important that the person's transparent about where you make your money, especially when you're working with state and private. Everyone wants to know, well, where's
that
your
accountability is so important, and I love that you're saying it on air, Sarah.
Yes, no, it is important. You have to know. I don't want anyone to second guess what I'm doing. Is it because I want to make money, or is it because I truly want to help? And I want to help, and this is how I make money if anyone needs to know.
All right.
But yeah, so that's us in a nutshell. I hope that I've answered some of the question.
No, definitely you have cleared a lot of misconceptions and educated the viewers, especially, to attest to the fact that, there's a lot that we don't know of. There's a lot that goes unheard, unseen, and that's why people like you come onto Visionary Pulse and they educate the masses and they educate the public as to, what they can look out for. So Sarah, elaborate a little bit more. Somebody meets in an accident, how do they contact your organization? How do they get the process rolling? Because, okay, fine, a lot of people are going through trauma, a lot of people are going through things, but how do they get into contact with you? What's the process and procedure to follow?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that, because it is quite important that we keep with compliance. So compliance is our backbone.
Okay, yes.
We have to make sure that
we don't want red tape.
Yes, no. So when it comes to being in an accident, and state can assist, state should assist. So that is where, if you are a ward of state, I cannot take you from state and say, oh no, state can help you, but I'm going to take you here because I want to make something on the side.
Oh, yes.
I take a patient because state cannot help. And now, if you've got a patient that's been at state and now discharged from state and needs rehabilitation, there's no rehabilitation. So that's where they're more than welcome to contact me. And they can contact us on Tau Khadi Care. So Tau Khadi is lioness, again feeding to my inner spirit animal, lioness. And on our logo, you'll see that the South Africa is actually the lioness's heart.
Wow.
So that's just, it just speaks to the nurturing, the fierceness at which we advocate for patients and for what they deserve.
And do it so passionately. Wow,
I'm
that's
very
amazing.
passionate about it.
Okay, so more on that when we come back after the break. Welcome back after the break. You are tuned into Visionary Pulse with me, your host Farzana Mayet, in conversation with the incredibly inspiring Sarah Louw. So Sarah, we were talking about Tauhadi and what it is that you do, especially for, our viewers out there to be more educated, and I think they've benefited a lot from that. So can you tell me about LNS? Let's elaborate more and go back a bit to LNS. How was it founded? What was the passion behind it?
Okay, so LNS was actually founded, we're sitting now already on 7-8 years.
Wow.
And it was founded with my husband.
Okay.
My husband was employed with an employer at the time. I was heavily pregnant with our second.
Okay.
And I was doing my LLB at that time. And I saw that there's a disconnect between, again, private and public hospitals and attorneys that need assistance, between the RAF and attorneys, between the workman's compensation and an attorney.
So let me stop you right
Yes.
there. So should someone meet in an accident, we're coming back to the accident scene, let's use the accident as a hypothetical scenario here. So should someone meet in an accident, obviously there's a lot of things that many are uninformed about with regards to what you've just mentioned now, the RAF and the claims, aspect of it. So I love that now LNS now forms part of Tauhadi as well. It intertwines.
Yes,
That is amazing. Okay, carry on.
So it's we actually talk about everything piggybacks off of one another.
Yes, yes.
So wherever we see that there's a gap, where there's a disconnect,
Right.
then we fill up that space. And I enjoy doing business that way because I don't have to go and look for my need. I already know what the need is.
Absolutely.
We fill up that space, we create a service. People don't want to do admin. People don't want to have to phone state institutions, unfortunately, but luckily I do. So I'm okay with being extremely pushy in a very kind way.
Yes.
And also I have amazing staff. Like my staff, huge shout out to them. They're just amazing human beings. And they sit and work through those type of requests every single day. So basically, I was this far pregnant with Teddy, running around at Baragwanath Hospital and Charlotte Mketse Hospital, getting hospital records of patients so that they could lodge claims and see doctors. And that's how it started. It sounds, if I think back, I can't believe where I was and where I am now. I think only when you look back, you see how much you've grown. So that's how LNS started filling up the gap as a stakeholder engagement officer for many firms, ensuring that their concerns are also voiced, but in a kind demeanor and
diplomatic way.
Yes,
Okay.
you have to be diplomatic.
Right.
You can't go in guns blazing. Everything has a certain tone that you have to use.
Absolutely. Okay, so what was the passion behind it? I know you're a people's person. You love, off air we were speaking of how you advocate for, doing what's right and doing what's, albeit not pushy, but you want to do things that's right and get things done. But what was the passion behind it?
So passion for me, I must say my purpose is just being able to assist.
Okay.
Knowing that I've served. So we raising our children as well. So I've got 3 boys,
All right.
ages 8,
Wow.
5 and 3. So they are very busy boys. But I raise them to be kind. Always think about somebody else, where they are. How can you help that person? Because a serving hand is an open hand to receive as well.
Yes.
And teaching them just how important it is, that gift of giving. Giving your time, giving your ear, giving your compassion, giving kindness. Yes, you have to constantly give, but you do
I would
receive
assume
as well.
so, Sarah, because once a person is in an accident, the trauma alone is separate, but they would need a listening ear. Because a lot of the times you would find that, many family members, yes, they are understanding, they're there for you, but they don't get what you are going through. Am I correct in saying that?
You are correct. And also just that it's the same when there's a death in a family.
Yes.
You've got people there at your house, for that first 2 weeks, and you feel like, oh wow, I'm so supported. And then after that 2 weeks, everyone carries on with their normal life.
It's back to the normalcy, yes.
But you have still got that trauma and that grief to deal with. And it's important to find help and speak about it and get over that anxiety and get over the trauma. And if you can't get over the trauma, learn to deal with the trauma. You asked why I got into law, and the reason why I got into law is my mom was murdered when I was very young.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It made me the person I am today. I was 12 when she was murdered, and my dad was framed for her murder. And my dad went to prison for 5 years.
Oh, my word.
And I fought tooth and nail to get him out.
As a 12-year-old at that time?
Yeah, well, he got
word.
sentenced when I was in matric.
Right.
And I spent every weekend, I even introduced my husband to my dad, taking him to prison. So that was one way to make sure that he's going to stick around. And my dad taught me a lot of things, and he was actually the reason why I entered Mrs. South Africa as well. Just always challenging yourself, be better than what you were yesterday. He was an amazing human being. He has now passed as well. He was a free man when he passed. He was acquitted on all charges. And I studied law to ensure that nobody would suffer an injustice the way that he did.
Oh, my word, Sarah, that is absolutely inspiring. I sit here so in awe and so inspired by you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's not a story I share often with people.
Yes. But it's important, Sarah, I think, especially for the viewers of Visionary Pulse, to attest to, it's not that a lot of people keep things covered up thinking, oh no, everybody else's life is perfect and rosy out there, only to find out that everyone's fighting their own inner battles.
Definitely.
And it's so good for you to be sharing this on air.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. So yeah, my dad was my drive as well into the Mrs. South Africa.
Right.
His death day fell on the last day of entry.
Okay.
And I always try to do something, be brave, get out of my comfort zone, be better than what I was yesterday.
Okay, so more on that when we come back after the break. Welcome back after the break. You are tuned into Visionary Pulse with me, your host Farzana Mayet, in conversation with Sarah Louw. So Sarah, we were talking before the ad break, about a shocking revelation which you have just given to our viewers, and this is what prompted you to attain a LLB degree. Let's elaborate a bit more on that. Some of the challenges that you face. Like I said, before we could break as well, a lot of people go through life thinking, okay, I've got it worse. There's nobody that's got it worse than me. But there's so many people that are walking around with scars. And that's what we want to focus on, that, no problem is too big or too small. If you can be anything, be kind to the next person, because everyone is fighting a battle you may never know nothing about. So can you just maybe elaborate for any of our students or viewers or anybody that is currently going through any kind of trials and tribulations? How was it like, the LLB journey?
So LLB journey for me was, it was vindicating, because everything I would read, I'd go back to, okay, but this is how a person could do this. And
so you dissect the entire situation?
Yes.
Okay.
And also we've mentioned that I'm pushy in a diplomatic manner. So for me, I was not ever willing to have someone look at me and go, oh, shame. Oh, that pity. Like, pity was for me a very big drive.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm not ashamed of who I am, what I've gone through, because it shaped me in the person that I am today.
Absolutely.
So it's important that we speak about where we are and don't think that you're alone. My dad had this fantastic saying. He says, you want to complain about your shoes until you see the man with no feet. So
That's so profound.
We do see our problem with our shoes, and it's not how we want it to look, or we're unhappy with the way that our foot shape is. We forget that there is a man out there with no feet. He's got no option for a shoe.
Yes, absolutely.
So as much as you think your situation's bad, there is people that are going to be better off, and there's definitely going to be people that are worse
absolutely worse off. So we need to count our blessings. I think, an attitude of gratitude is so imperative.
I'm stealing that.
That is so important.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the next, your journey to becoming a finalist in the Mrs. South Africa. How did that happen? take me through some of the feelings and, when you got selected, and a message to our, viewers out there, anyone who, is aspiring to be someone that, enters a pageant or wanting to, go into any type of field, but they're apprehensive and they're kind of scared.
So Mrs. South Africa for me has been a journey of discovery. It started off as a challenge myself journey, finding who I was after becoming a mom, challenging myself to grow. When you think you've hit the ceiling, where you are, and then you realize, oh my gosh, I just needed to be potted in a bigger garden.
Right.
You've got a lot more growth to go, girl. So Mrs. South Africa is not just about glitz, glamour, a crown, pageant dress. It's for married women, ages 25 to 55, that want to be able to find their tribe. So there's a sisterhood that comes with Mrs. South Africa.
Yes.
And as much as it sounds cliche, it really is. I've met some amazing women, and they are inspiring. And when you surround yourself with people that fill your cup and people that motivate you to be better, to discover your purpose. You might think your purpose is patience, but you find out that your purpose is actually public speaking.
So you find different things along the way, you discover, rather, that's the word I'm looking for. You discover things and traits about yourself you never knew existed.
Definitely. And, having the ladies that have already gone through this journey themselves. And
your mentors, so to speak.
Yes.
Right.
No, I've got so many wonderful people that we're surrounded by, that we're encouraged by. Our current queen as well, just as she's got such grit and grace, and she's someone that a person can look up to. So it is like that big sister feeling.
Absolutely.
I related the finalist phase to being in grade 8 at high school,
Yes.
where the prefects and the head girl are just like, you're in awe of them. And I know that by the end of this, I'm going to be filling up a role there as well. And it is my responsibility now to also encourage women that want to empower themselves. It's not about what you look like in a dress. It's not. You'll get there and you'll feel it, and you'll feel that there's this confidence that you thought was pushed away in a shoe bag at the bottom of the cupboard, that you dust out and you find again. It's I can't stop smiling about this, but it's something that you can't explain unless they experience it.
Yes.
Embrace yourself. Don't be scared to take on a new challenge, because if your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough.
Nothing will, absolutely.
You got to dream big.
And I always say, aim to be, every morning wake up and aim to be the better version of yourself than you were yesterday.
That's what my dad said, yeah.
And the most important thing, what I always, and I think this you'll steal as well, but that's fine.
Definitely.
Competition is dead, collaboration is key. I'm a fierce supporter of that.
That's it.
And I'm a fierce believer that, everyone needs to collaborate rather than compete. If COVID has taught us anything, it's to be there and to rather rise, because we rise by lifting others, is to lift each other up. So wishing you all the best, Sarah, on your journey. And, let's elaborate before we finish off the segment, if someone wants to get in touch with you for the wonderful initiatives that you are a part of, where can they reach you? Can you just provide us with your email, Eddie?
Yes, no, I can. It's a lengthy one, so I don't know if it's something that will pop up on the screen or something.
Yeah, we will make sure that pops up on screen.
But it's also, I've become quite active on social media, something that I was never big on. Also realized the power in social media.
Absolutely.
It's huge. And I'm quite active there, so if someone does follow me on Instagram, they'd be able to send me a message there as well, and I could always push them to whichever platform they'd need to speak to. So my handle, may I give my handle?
Please.
It's at the Sarah Louw. So Sarah, Sarah, down DOWN, and my surname Louw, LOUW.
Okay. And the email for to reach out to you, should someone want to send any documentation or anything?
Of course. So they can send an email to info@Taugadi Care. So I'm going to spell that.
Yes.
TAUGADI care care.co.za.
Okay, perfect. So that's where our viewers can reach you at any given time. Sarah, something most important, and this is something that I'm extremely passionate about, empowerment.
Yes.
So what are some of the ways that you empower people, especially women? Because I know off air you were telling me you're a fierce, advocate for women empowerment. So can we get into that before we close up, please?
Of course. So with women empowerment, I think it's very important that women first realize that they are worthy, that their voice is a voice that can be heard and should be heard. So I look at like Maya Angelou and all these fantastic women in history.
Yes, absolutely.
And just how they didn't allow someone telling them that they don't have a space to determine whether they have a space.
Right.
Don't let someone else determine your worth. You are already enough. You are worthy. And if you've got a project that you want to do,
go ahead and do it. Yes.
Go for it. Because you don't just have yourself that's looking at you. Most of us are aunties, mums. You've got young generations also looking, both boys and girls. You want to make sure that your son, so a boy mom,
right,
sees a strong woman and doesn't see her as competition, but sees her as a collaborator. You spoke about collaboration.
Yes, that is so imperative, Sarah.
Let's stop comparing ourselves and stop comparing genders, the boys and girls against one another. They each carry their own strength in their gender. A girl can be powerful in a boardroom, but still be feminine and graceful in her deliverance.
Absolutely.
A man, they have a different type of delivery.
And I'd like to reiterate as well what you just said now, because it's so important that we accept our, the boys and the girls as to what their personality traits are. A boy can be just as sensitive. You don't have to say to the boy, look, you're a boy, you need to be a man. A man doesn't cry, things like that.
We all cry, it's human.
It's human, it's human. Every person needs to experience that sensitivity. And I think by being hard on our kids as well, it molds them now to either be a detrimental effect in the adulthood, because my parents never allowed me to be,
And, well, regardless whether we let them be or not be, there'll always be some reason why we're blamed. So I've taken solace in that.
I love that.
But I'd rather make sure that I'm blamed for something I believed in.
Absolutely.
So if they want to say I was too hard or too soft,
you were mean
fine.
mom.
Yeah, no, and I probably, because boys are difficult to raise. It's not, you can't be too soft, especially when I know what my legs look like from bruises of playing
the balls
aya
and the
and
soccer like
and stuff. So they are different. I don't know what it's like to raise a daughter, but I do know what it's like to empower a younger girl when they look at you and see what you're able to achieve. People get hung up also on the glitz and the glamour at the end. The CEO driving this car. It takes a lot to get there. It doesn't
Absolutely,
happen
and I love
overnight.
that you said that, because I'd like to elaborate a bit more about it. People think the journey to becoming the CEO, was one of so easy, simple. It was just, okay, you woke up one morning, you decided to be a CEO, the car miraculously appeared, the title miraculously appeared, all the perks that appears with it, the company that you keep just appeared. No, it's a real hard work. And I'd like to say this on air, blood, sweat, and literal tears to get to where you want to be. It's no easy journey. So if you want to get somewhere, if you are admiring or inspired by someone, be prepared to put in the hard work, be extremely determined, and be fierce about your dreams and attaining your success.
Be driven by that purpose, because that purpose will get you to the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a tough one.
So Sarah, I want to thank you so much for joining me on Visionary Pulse. It has been such an honor. Before you go, one quote that gets you up every morning, just for our viewers.
So it's something I tell my kids every day. So I say to them that you must be kind. So act kindly, love unconditionally, and in all things, thank God for your blessings.
Absolutely profound. Thank you so much for joining me, Sarah.
Thank you.
Wishing you all the best in your journey for the finalist of Mrs. South Africa. We hope to see you when you are crowned, hopefully.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of another powerful segment of Visionary Pulse. Join me again next week when we chat to another game changer and change maker. This is me, Farzana Mayet. Assalamu alaikum, and a very good evening to you.